First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Do whatever.
Brad.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. First, I just wanted to thank you guys. This is the first time I've ever seen an intelligent conversation taking place on public access. So,
Wow.
Is it the first time you've watched our show?
Or public access.
I hope.
I happened to catch it today. I've never seen it before, but
oh, good.
Interesting.
If you were going to say
lived
you
in
watched
Texas
our
my whole
show
life.
and this is the first time you've seen an intelligent conversation here, I'd feel bad.
I would just say it's probably the first time you've seen me co-host.
That must be it.
Yeah, if you watch public access at about 2 in the morning, it's not a real brain burner or anything. The thing that I've always thought was interesting about atheism is atheists don't use their beliefs to justify anything. No, I've never heard of an atheist using their beliefs to justify a murder or to justify, thieving from anybody or anything like that.
Correct.
And I think it's interesting that, especially in my lifetime, I've watched this get more and more demonized to the point where we're kind of a fringe element.
Yeah.
Even though I think there's a large percentage of people out there that are what I would call passive atheists.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. This, I think a week or two ago, I saw another headline about some woman killing all her kids. And when I see those headlines, I immediately think, okay, within the first 2 sentences, it's going to say what her religion was. And I'm always right.
It's very interesting. I mean, I know it's only in the most extreme sect of the Muslim world, but we're familiar with, the people over there that teach their children that it's okay to kill a Jew or it's okay to kill a Christian, under certain circumstances. And I always thought that was interesting because you never hear that from an atheist. And we never use what we believe about the world to justify actions, and especially not to justify horrendous actions like that. We're one of the most untrusted demographics in the United States. I guess it's because other people haven't taken the time to look at the kind of things that I believe, even though I've taken a lot of time to look at the things that they believe.
Right. Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I think Tracy was saying earlier about how if somebody is giving you the answers, then you don't have to go and find out about them for yourselves. When you're an atheist, nobody gives you the answers because there's really not a book that you can point to that you can say, yes, this is absolutely 100% reliable. So if you want to find out what the opposition believes, you have to go to outside sources and often find out from the horse's mouth what they're thinking. Whereas if you're a Christian, you can just say, see, look right there. It says the fool says in his heart there is no God.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. And if the religion has a vested interest in converting as many people as possible to it, then you don't think they're going to give other people like atheists or competing religions a fair shake when they're sermonizing about them.
Yeah.
And the other thing I thought was interesting too is, in my case, I have a 14-year-old brother. He knows I'm an atheist. I've told him from the start. I tell him about what I believe, and I tell him how I got to that point, and show him the resources that I've used to get to that point. But I've told him the entire time, you can believe what you want to believe. If you tell me you're a Muslim tomorrow, you're still my brother. It's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a much healthier point of view to have than, say, if I came from a Baptist family, my brother decides he wants to be an atheist, and, we have to cut him off from the family. I mean, I've heard of situations like that happening with people I know and things like that. And to me, it just seems like a much more inclusive lifestyle, and I'm much happier this way. I know that much. So I guess that's kind of why I was saying, I don't understand why we've been demonized so much, because for me, it's a very pleasant life, and I feel content in knowing what I know and knowing also that there's a lot that I don't know. And they always say that, if there's no God, what's the point? We're here for no reason. Life's not worth living. But there's tons and tons of knowledge out there that is still waiting for us. And that's what makes life worth living to me, is the pursuit of that knowledge.
Well said.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just going to point out that atheism and theism, neither one really prescribes that anyone do anything. So in other words, like, just simply believing that a God exists doesn't really dictate that I go out and do anything or utilize, and very few people will use even theism, pure theism, as a justification for action. Generally, it's when it involves religion, when it goes from simply, I think there's a God, to I think God wants me to do certain things.
Right, I see what you're saying with that too, and I think the problem, like, I don't have any problem whatsoever with theism in general and people believing in God. I think the problem with theism is that it's 99 times out of 100 accompanied by organized religion. Right. And I think that's where it goes wrong.
Right. It's when you layer a belief system on top of your theism is where you run into problems. And it's the same, I mean, and that's the thing, is with atheism, how do you lay a belief system on top of that in a cohesive way? I think that humanism is sort of a mild attempt at something like that, except that humanism also includes religious theists. So, but you do have in that's like the one thing I can think of where you have like a group of atheists who are kind of coming together and layering a belief system onto atheism to say that I'm going to identify consciously with humanism as well as atheism, or because I'm an atheist.
Well, but I think there's a difference here in that if you just say you're an atheist, you don't have to say you're a humanist, or indeed pick anything else to go along with your atheist. But there's no such thing as a generic God. I mean, if you say there is a God, then automatically that implies that you believe that there is a God, and he is a specific God with specific properties.
Well,
except that
you may not know what that is, but
of God you're talking about, you've received it from somewhere. You didn't come up with that from your own research or your own evidence.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that a person can believe, can say I believe in God, and yet feel that nothing is required to say I simply believe there's a God.
Right, although that is a specific belief about God. This is a God who doesn't care.
But it may not dictate your actions, is what I'm saying. It's not, theism itself does not require any action.
No, it doesn't.
Religion is what requires action.
Yeah, it's kind of a fine distinction there.
But I think it's when he's talking about atheism not being used as a justification, what I'm trying to point out is that theism is also not used as a justification.
Right.
Religion is used as a justification. That when you apply a belief system to it that says I then have to act, well, that's something that you're putting on top of your theism. That's not pure theism anymore.
But what I'm saying is nobody identifies as a pure theist. Nobody says I'm a theist.
I wouldn't say
they
that.
say I'm a Christian.
But I've talked to people who have said, like, I believe in God, but I don't go to church, and I don't really know anything. I don't believe the Bible or whatever, but I just think there's something.
But that person has chosen a particular version of God. I mean, they must believe that God is not that.
Right, but now they're applying a religion or a belief system on top of their theism.
Yeah.
Because they're putting other things in. Now I believe in hell.
Right,
now
but
I
I'm saying it's unavoidable for theism.
I don't believe that it's unavoidable.
Okay.
I think there are some people
See,
that
this
are
is the great thing about an atheist show. We don't stand here and agree with each other.
Dang that's kind of the people I was referring to, where if you ask them if they're a Christian, they'll say yes. Or if you ask them if they believe in a God, they'll say yes. But, I mean, if you sat down at a table with them and had a conversation with them, you'll find out they've never read the Bible. They've been to church 2 or 3 times with their parents or something along those lines. And like you were saying, they kind of believe out of an inherent fear of not believing. But if you really sat them down and talked to them, there's nothing there behind their belief.
Right, and if they get sick, they don't pray, they go to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got to run. Thank you guys very much for taking my call.
Thanks for calling, Brett.
For people who've been watching clips on YouTube, if this clip happens to make it to YouTube, it's worth pointing out that you can watch the entire show by going to the website, www.atheist-experience.com, as well as archived shows by clicking on the show archive there. Most of them are on Google Video, some of them are on Blip TV.